Get our agenda here.
Okay, I'm recording.
And our time.
6:02.
Okay, good afternoon. This is the Citizens Climate Advisory Board Committee, and we're calling this committee to order at 6:03. And it's May 15th. And we're meeting at the Race Night Conference Room. Let us go ahead, Steve, and take an attendance and determine if we have a quorum.
Okay, with us is Danny, Jackie, and John. So we only have 3 members in person, so we do not have the 5 needed for a quorum.
Okay. So we are hearing that we will not be able to approve our minutes, but I'd like to go ahead and have everyone here to look over the agenda and see if there's anything we'd like to add or subtract from this agenda today. Okay, hearing nothing, let's go ahead and approve this agenda. Is there a motion for approval?
Sure,
Yeah.
or I'll second.
Yeah, cool.
Okay.
Sure.
All right, any discussion? All right, so agenda stands approved as presented to us. Although we can't approve these minutes, did everyone get a chance to look at the minutes for April 17th?
If you do
Yes.
see any corrections, you can send them my way as well. We'll attempt to approve those minutes at our next meeting in June, along with the March minutes.
Ooh, that's good.
All right. Okay, with that, no additions or things right now. And as Steve indicated, if there is something that comes up, please send it to him. All right, we're going to spend a lot of our time today continuing our discussion on the tasks and responsibilities that we have for contacting our climate partners. Did everybody get a chance to at least make some contacts with their partners? And by the way, we had that sheet that came out, the spreadsheet. Did everybody get a chance to look at that?
I did it in February, I think.
Yeah, Jackie was one of the first to have it
Okay.
done.
Yeah.
All right,
And
I just
your
expanded on it,
information
and
was-
put it in
yeah.
docs,
Okay.
so that way we could keep more detailed information, just a couple of things. Not gonna make it.
and Daniel, that was great. This is exactly what we kind of wanted to do so that we'd have everything in one location.
But I think only 2 people have asked to have access to it yet. So, and I don't know if they have the link. Did I give you a link to it? I should have.
I
Yes.
did something
You
to it.
did.
Yeah,
You did, and one other person asked for access, and that's it. So I'm like, oh, people need to put
Okay.
Are
their
you
stuff in
sending it
there.
out? Did you send it out?
It's in an email from,
Okay.
Yeah, it went out. I think one thing we may need to do if people aren't accessing it is maybe I could be getting a final version of it at some point each
Yeah.
and sending that out just to keep people updated
Yeah.
if they're having trouble accessing it. Yeah, I looked at it twice now.
okay. And I'll, continue to update it as we talk with our groups, and sometimes as our groups do things, we can also kind of put a note there that, they're having certain meetings and just kind of update what our contacts are actually doing.
I have an idea too. I assumed that this was primarily to track contacts for the climate fair. Maybe we should use that and make a more detailed one for liaison work. And when you meet with somebody or you talk with somebody about, what they're doing and inform them what we're doing, we could put like a date box, and you could put the date where you contacted your contact, something like that.
I
It
think
wouldn't
that-
take much to do.
I think that would be really good. I was gonna use it that way anyway, in a way, but, I think in a comment section like that, it would, allow us to, you know, bring to the group and let the group see what each area, each group is doing.
Cool.
Okay.
I can do that this week.
All right, any other comments, Danielle, any other thing on that? All right,
Do we have an update on the climate fair that we could be sending to the people that we contact? I mean, I got the poster originally, but at some point Betsy mentioned that there would, maybe I should wait until the next agenda.
I actually have a friend who's a vendor and she gets emails from them all. Once you sign up as a vendor, you get emails all the time for it. But
Okay,
for
so my
people who haven't
question-
signed up.
My question was, Betsy, when I spoke to her, she said there would be a part of the event from 3 to 5 that you had to pre-register for and a limited number of people would come. I was just wondering who that's open to. Can we send them how to register? I haven't seen anything about how to register for that. Or
that's
anything
come
like
out,
that.
right?
Yeah, we have a registration for that,
Yeah.
but we've not released it. We wanted to make sure we had, that the policymakers there, as we're getting that information, we're starting to pull together more people we want to attend.
Okay,
So what we don't want to do is just blast it out and all of a sudden we get, 80 people and we only had capacity for 40 more. So, what we'll probably start doing next and this week is we'll be sending out requests to particular individuals to see if they're interested in attending and can kind of continue down that process.
so
if
it's
we
an
have,
invitation only.
yes, it's an invitation only based on capacity.
And how many confirmed people do you have so far?
I actually don't know that number because that's the number Betsy has,
Okay.
but I don't know. But I don't think it's a huge number yet, so.
But so the 3 to 5 event won't really be open to the public.
Correct.
Okay,
It could be if, we send it out and we get 80 people and there's room for 20 more. So someone could walk up, show up and be able to get in. But what we're not doing is what we're doing with the fair, which is just kind of just a blast of, hey, come join us. We're trying to avoid that scenario in case we have too many people attending.
because the auditorium only seats 100.
Yes.
Okay,
Hey, Betsy.
Betsy, we were just talking about, you sending out that, invitation for June 2nd. And where we stand with that.
for the 3 to 5 part of the event. So that's an invitation only. And do you know how many seats you're
Yeah,
getting?
go ahead.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, so it's sort of invitation only, so there's 125 capacity for the room. That's the absolute maximum fire code requirement. So what we're aiming for is about 100 people. That's gonna allow staff and volunteers and stuff to also come in and out. And so right now, so the only official invitation reserved seats were for policymakers. So we sent out emails to our Board of County Commission, the City of Gainesville's Board, County Commission and Mayor. And then we reached out to the city managers and hopefully through them, the city commissions and mayors of the other 8 municipalities. So that was sort of the goal, was to sort of fill those seats. And we've gotten some back. We haven't heard very much yet from the smaller municipalities. I think a follow-up email would be helpful. We do have 2 city commissioners that are going to be there. We're going to have 2 county commissioners at least that are going to be there. But otherwise, we're like, okay, so now we're kind of ready to open those seats up a little bit more. So we started out by reaching out to who in county is probably going to be involved with the actual climate action plan, which is what we're hoping to jumpstart with the program, with the day, the fair. So we've got a few people from EPD. We're reaching out to the directors of some of the departments to see if they're interested. We reached out to UF Sustainability Office today. We gave them 4 seats at their request.
That is on the.
Oh yeah, great. Welcome, Matt. It does look like we're gonna be able to do 4 for them. And after that, I guess I would love the wisdom of this group, in particular. We sort of said community leaders. I guess we did reserve, I think 2 spots for high school students, 2 spots for college students to try and make sure that there's a space for youth leadership. But otherwise, yeah, I think community leaders was the only thing that we had in mind. And so if there was somebody that specifically reached out and interested in the spot, I think we've been pretty open and.
Yeah, in fact, I would recommend going back
Yeah.
through your contacts and see who was interested in attending and reach back out to them for an invite.
Great, because, yeah, I think we're ready to fill up as best we can.
So.
Well, so
are-
if I reach out, how many seats do I have to reach out with? And is there a registration form? And there needs to be, like, if you give me a format, I'm happy to contact you.
Yeah,
If you tell me to contact 10 people, I'm happy to. If you tell me to get 20, I can do that, but just,
right.
I need a format and.
Yeah, so I think we can get that to you probably tomorrow. We've been forwarding the requests to my intern Valentina. And
Okay.
she wasn't in the office today, so I know a few more came through, so I'll follow up with her tomorrow. I'll see, I'll have her do a full accounting of everybody that we've sort of forwarded her way. And we'll be able to get you a number.
Yeah, do you want me to contact the people on that master list of climate groups?
I guess
Or has that been done?
not for 3 to 5.
Right, that's
Right.
what I mean.
So no, that hasn't been done yet.
Okay,
I guess I'd open that question up to the CCAC. Is this the group of people that you want to see in that room? Is there others that maybe aren't represented on that list?
Well, we said community leaders, and I guess organization leaders that deal with climate. So, yeah, I think that definitely the climate type of organization, leaders, would be good to go ahead and contact. And also maybe, I'm gonna maybe reach out to some of the, community, advisory boards, the community center people, Duval and Spring Hill kind of
Yeah.
people, to just to let them know and invite them.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think that's, we would
Yeah.
appreciate absolutely the wisdom of this group for
Right.
knowing who you guys feel, like who you work with in the community that you think would be valuable to know this and interested in sort of starting the next phase of turning that information into action.
what about the League of Women Voters?
They were on the list, yeah.
Oh, they're already on
Yeah,
the
already
list,
have
and you've
that.
already invited them, okay.
We haven't invited them for the 3 to 5, so they're on the CCAC
The contact list.
contact
Okay.
list.
I mean, they are people that influence policymakers, so I would think they'd be good to have it for 3 to 5 30.
I agree.
So Betsy, you're gonna forward us the invitation letter to
Yep.
send out?
Valentina and I have crafted the invitation letter, and it does include a link to a registration page. So we'll get that sent out. We'll get the total number of open seats that we have right now and the correct email link.
It might be a good idea to know who's already been invited, so we don't re-invite them.
That's true.
And I think we'll have that list, so.
Cool.
I don't think there's any reason not to run as well.
I would prefer it, like, rather than say, oh, we have 60 seats left, if you said, Jackie, can you fill 10 seats or 20 seats? Because I don't wanna
Right?
do too many or, whatever, so if that's okay, that would be my preference. I mean, you could tell me how many seats you have, but, let me know what your expectation is.
Good.
And Betsy, are you asking them to let you know if they're coming? So,
Yes, if at all possible, have them fill out this registration link. That lets us track it. And then the other really important factor is if they are on boards, or at the sign-in sheet on the day, we're gonna have a space to ask them if they're on a board. Because we're gonna try and set them apart from each other in the room. Due to public meeting requirements, as you have all experienced yourself, we can't have anybody who sit on the same public board have the appearance that they might be talking to each other about this. So we're trying to sort of manage that appearance
I see.
wow.
by getting their registration information.
Okay.
Well,
There-
could you just invite everyone in every board? And then if they come or not is their choice?
I I'd worry, I mean, then we start hitting the capacity, so we could send out the invitations in the same way that we did
Or like
the
the
public
UAB
leaders.
board, for example.
Yeah, so if we sent it out, we might be better served asking for, the boards to set, to like choose someone. to
Choose
set-
her up.
Send a representative.
Right,
Okay.
and then that way we would at least know that, that would help us manage too. You know, how many is coming from that group, we know that maybe there's at least two, so we'll plan to set them separate from each other,
Okay.
and so.
All right, the floor recognizes Eric.
So, thank you, John. Just because we just went through this with the IRP and boards and city commission and so forth. The threshold is really, it doesn't matter whether they speak or not. If they are in the same room. For an issue that could potentially come before that board. Then they are not allowed to be in the same. It doesn't matter about spacing or anything like that. So that was the interpretation from the city council.
Yeah.
For our meeting. So if this could potentially become something that you bring back before a board. Then you can't have two people in the same room unless it's publicly noticed.
Could you have one representative from each board?
Yes.
Okay, so that's what,
But
we-
two people can't, from the same board or commission, can't be in the same room.
so
If it
their
could
invitation would
potentially-
have to say that.
So, I mean, honestly, the simple thing to do is just publicly notice the meeting.
So that was our plan A,
I mean.
and then we went to our legal team. And they went to their legal team, and both legal teams came back to us and said, do not notice this as a public meeting. They said that as long as they were not being asked to make any decisions that day. And none of the commissioners were being asked to speak or present in any way, then it should not be noticed as a public meeting, and that was their formal recommendation from both our legal teams.
Could
As
you,
long as they are not discussed like a city business that require a vote, then it's okay. And they are pretty knowledgeable and experienced in those settings of gathering that they know not to talk to each other.
Right.
what about, could you, since there is limited seating, and I'm thinking there are a lot of people who would like to come, because I mean, I think this is very interesting, the results of the vulnerability report.
Right.
Could it be streamed live on YouTube?
I have a really good news on that, is that I think yes. So I reached out to our communications team early on, and they said that they did not have the technical capacity to do it, but they were not opposed to us finding somebody else to do that job. So I reached out to the Alachua County Public Schools. They've been doing rezoning efforts lately that have been taking place in like cafeterias. And there's been public comment and questions. They've got a PowerPoint presentation. They've got a panel that school board members that speak. I said, could you do that at Camp Pascagoula? And they said probably, and they'd be very interested. And they sent somebody out. They are sending somebody out to Camp Pascagoula this week. It might have been today. I should follow up with them to check out the space. But if the space looks fine, then we are going to be able to stream it live.
Okay.
And it won't be great quality. But at the same time that they're streaming it, they're gonna have two separate cameras, and then afterwards they'll take good cameras and they'll mesh it together and they'll replace the poor quality streaming with the official version.
Yeah, for the Community Remembrance Project,
Yeah,
we have live streamed all of them.
yeah,
And the guy does the same thing, he edits them later, like you can watch it live and then he edits it later, so it's even nicer.
yeah,
If your people can't do it, I know this man has the
that would be,
capacity to do it.
Yeah.
His name is Tristan
okay,
Ford, but he charges $500.
okay, yeah, that's good to know.
It might be less since it's only 2 hours.
Yeah,
But that's what he charges.
okay, I might follow up with this,
Okay.
the public schools again.
Yeah, let me,
Okay, that sounds really good. Any other questions for Betsy? Well, that sounds great, Betsy. I'm glad that, I know, Dave, at the school district, does a lot of that, and we've been doing a lot of it in this rezoning.
Yeah,
So, and our meeting is scheduled to be in the lounge in our lodge at Cascagoula. Is that
right,
correct?
yep,
Okay.
inside the meeting lodge for 3 to 5.
Okay, and the only, the lighting isn't that great, but, I'm hoping that it'll work out good.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other, so the meeting before that, where is that, what's the logistics on that?
The little background on that, I worked with our equity manager, Deidre Houchin. She's working on another project called the Fresh Foods Pathways Project. And so she has been trying to find a way to bring together some community leaders in the food security world. And considering the human systems piece of climate resilience and climate resilience building is an important part of what we're going to be talking about. I asked her if it might be possible for us to get that same group of people to our climate fair. And so one way that we can do that would be, since our event doesn't start till 3 p.m., check in at 2:30, we'll probably start getting ready at 2. That actually means that Cascagoula is free for most of the morning. And so we've been trying to work it out so that they can come and use that during the morning hours. And then everybody's welcome to stay. And people have already agreed to stay for the 3 to 5 event. And then Working Food also wants to have a table at the 5 to 8 p.m. group. We're hoping that's going to work. Deidre has lined up a chef so that they can sort of like work together and make food together and talk about in this like less formal atmosphere for what a fresh food of root causes of food scarcity and how the county can help with that. We hit a little bit of a hitch, which is that the stove at Camp Cascagoula is not hooked up. So we've been sending a flurry of emails today with facilities and parks, and apparently they hadn't put in the request to have the stove hooked up yet, and they thought they had, and so I guess to be decided, to be determined whether that works out.
All right, I'll check with them on that. We were out there Saturday for cleanup and making everything look really nice. I think the commissioners had a meeting out there. Yes, Monday and last Monday. So if we had the stove hooked up, you had some events that you wanted to actually do some cooking there?
Deidre did, yeah.
Deidre
So
did.
that would be, I kind of helped try and facilitate the space
Okay.
because my goal is to get the same people to our event as well. But I'm trying to sort of let her
Yeah. So
work on that while I'm working on.
the idea there would be for it to start at what time?
So 11:30,
11:30?
yeah, would be when hers was starting.
Who's the target audience?
She's doing something similar to us, except instead of climate community leaders, she's looking for like food system security, food system and food security leadership.
And I think community leaders would be a good people to kind of bring to that with that project that she's working on.
Right. From what she's talked a little bit about it, there's a lot of people doing different things to improve food security and food growing and food health, and she's trying to sort of bring in people that have been working on the different pieces of this to see if there's a way for the county through this American Rescue Plan Act funding to unite this a little more comprehensively to make sure that they're supporting these different pieces.
Okay. All right, will that be in a flyer or something?
We do have a flyer. Yeah, I can send that flyer.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
John, there is a question from Ellen.
Okay.
She's asking, what about climate action faith groups like UCG, Temple, Shir Shalom, and others that she's not aware of? So I think the answer is yes, we've been trying to reach out to these others, but yeah, I'm sure we would be willing to include additional groups as we get information and availability.
Right.
Okay,
In fact, I know at least 2 of those groups I think are on our list. So,
all right, so
But we haven't, are we talking about the 3 to 5 time period?
I think that's what her question was referring to in that.
Right.
Yes, and we haven't
Maybe
reached.
tomorrow, when I get this information from you, I
Yeah.
can start contacting some of those.
Yeah.
okay. All right, so we kind of skipped number 4 and went to number 5, but is there any other discussion on the planning for our June 2nd climate?
Well, I get a few other updates. So after conversations with some of our leadership and our legal team, our risk management team, we have been sort of came to the decision that we'd like to cap the number of vendors at 30, not for space constraint reasons, but for staff capacity reasons. It's great that we even had to have that conversation. I mean, that we got a lot of interest. So I think we're at, I just ran the numbers, we're at 28 organizations that have signed up. Yeah, and then we've got 6 that we're waiting for a little bit more information on. I'm not sure if GRU is interested in tabling yet. And we have RTS from the city, but we weren't sure if there was other city, so we kind of reserved some tables for them. If we do hit more than 30, we have to sort of make some decisions about who to continue to invite. We had hoped it would be as simple as first come, first serve, but we have a lot of partners that have sort of helped us in this process, and we don't want to just tell them that they can't have a table. So we have, we talked to our legal team, like, how do we decide what's the appropriate way? And what we came up with was, of the 28 vendors that have already signed up, only 4 of them are like private businesses. And so we said, well, if it comes to it, which it has not yet, but if it does, our current plan is to prioritize the nonprofits, so that the people that come to the fair can have more access to, free or reduced services, with the hope that next year we'll have a better staffing capacity.
Does that include food trucks?
No,
No.
that doesn't, so
That's just the
the
table and.
the vendor placements, right?
Well, that's great that we got the interest.
Yeah,
And we marketed it enough that people are interested in coming. I think the more we can get messages out to different groups, it would be really, really good. I was just thinking, there's an organization called Grow Hub. I would like to reach out to them because they're involved in supplying a lot of the plants and things that to different groups. And we hadn't really talked about them. I'd love to see them. And also, I'm going to reach out to Lottery County Schools, our food system.
oh, yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, because they actually prepare the meals for Costco during the summer.
Oh, great.
And so I'm gonna
They might be able to help with the earlier event too. They might have some tips for how we can make that happen. Also, there is one table that we've reserved for the NAACP ECJC if they are at all interested, because you were big partners. You helped us bring in a lot of vendors, and we're very involved in early conversations. So I just wanted to let you all know that table reservation does exist. If you're interested, or if you'd like to pass it on to another organization.
Okay, I reached out to Quandra about that, and she thought that we were on board. Do you know anything about that, Jackie?
No, I haven't heard anything about it, but I haven't been going to the ECJC meetings, but I can ask her. I'll find out. I'll find out for each one.
Yeah, I need to know.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm gonna get with our food service people, Maria there, and see if we would like to do something in for us, maybe announcing some of the services that we have this summer for the food and at the schools. And, all right. If there's no other discussion on our June 2nd climate fair event, we're gonna talk a little bit if there are any more discussions on the tasks and responsibilities of our CCAC members to meet with the committee goals and our partnerships. Daniel, we said that we're gonna maybe expand our worksheet to kind of include, contact information, as well as the climate fair.
Correct.
Information.
I'll make two separate documents.
Okay,
And you can just put the links in the,
Yes,
the-
let me know when it's up and ready and I will send the link out to everyone
you
again.
got it.
okay, any questions regarding that climate partnership? Everybody knows kind of like what we're kind of doing. We want to make sure that we act as their liaison and we keep them updated and keep our committee updated on any big things or things that they're working on. I think one of the common things that it looked like everybody's kind of talking about is working with GRU and kind of putting something together to show where their organization stands on the GRU governor takeover kind of thing. See what each group feels about that.
Why? I mean, isn't it a done deal?
The theme is we want to, each group seems like, even though it's a done deal, they want to take a position and document their position.
Okay. So you want each group, but we should contact the groups that we are liaisoning with and
Yeah.
ask them what their position is.
Right.
Okay. On that topic, do you know anything about the lawsuit? That the private citizens group is suing the government about that?
Well, as far as I know, they're kind of going ahead with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Whether it's gonna make a difference, but it's again, a way to document
Mhm.
and put a position together. Let's move to staff updates.
Okay, I'll go ahead then, in terms of the county. I wanted to give you a heads up, John. The CCAC is up to give a presentation at June 27th to the board. All the committees for the county are scheduled to give updates sometime during the year. Ours is scheduled for June 22nd. So that's the day after our next regular meeting, but we'll need to have that presentation ready by June 12th, 13th. So John, what I'll do is I'll give you the presentation we worked on for the Joint Water and Climate Policy Board, and I'll give you a little bit of updates, for instance, the list of committee members at the front, things like that we probably want to add. So check your calendar, make sure that's a time that you could attend. It would be 11:30 a.m. be the start of the meeting for the regular June 27th County Commission. And we'd most likely be sometime around 12:30 when, or probably around 12:30 when that presentation would take place. If you don't think you can do it, I can go down the line, ask Jennison, or even someone else on the committee if they're interested. If no one on the committee wants to give the presentation, I can give that presentation.
Okay, I'll check my calendar.
Yep.
It looks like
Yeah, it might, if it doesn't look good, let me know and
Okay.
we'll make some contacts for others. The other thing I wanted to give a heads up on is John, Terry and Nathan, you guys are all up for expiration for August of this year would be the end of your time. So all of you, John, you did a full 3-year commitment. So if you're interested in reapplying, you can. I'll be sending out that notification later this week for any citizens that are interested in applying to this committee. Terry and Nathan were actually 1-year commitments. They took place of people who had to leave the board. So they had a very short tenure. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're interested in continuing if they can. So there's the 3 regular vacancies are coming up, and then there's Carly Moore's position. She's no longer been able to attend the meetings anymore. So her position is for 2 more years. So there would be 3 3-year terms and 1 2-year term available for so we'd be looking at 4 new members. And that would be, I'll send out the notification at the end of this week or early next week. It'll be open for the month of June. I think people need to get their applications in by July 14th. And you'll get selected at the August 7th Joint Water and Climate Policy Board meeting, which is their next meeting.
Okay.
And that was another thing, just to remind everyone, they are not meeting in June. The Joint Water and Climate Policy Board is not meeting in June. So their next meeting is August.
Not with the kind of overlay analysis for the board.
Oh, yes. I haven't said anything, but yeah, thanks. Thanks for reminding me. The Jones Edmonds is going to give a presentation on May 23rd to the entire county commission. It's going to be a very similar presentation to the June 2nd event. But obviously, if they get any additional information between then and June 2nd, they'll provide that as well. But they're going to be giving a presentation on May 23rd during the 11:30 board meeting as well.
Did you say that was to the county commission?
Yeah, it's county commission.
Will
Yeah,
that be similar to the one that was presented to the city commission that we got a videotape of?
that was a city and county joint commission
Oh.
meeting that one was for. That they're going to have some more updated information from that one. So
Okay.
they've continued to get more information and they're continuing to build on their presentation.
Do you think you can send us the link afterwards?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
And
you mean
maybe-
the link to the board meeting?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I can do that.
And would you mind putting on at what time they start talking?
Absolutely. In fact, I'll put that on when I do the link.
That'd be
Yeah.
awesome. Thank you so much.
That usually becomes available the next day. So I'll send that out on the 24th.
And usually when you go the next day and you see the agenda, I think you can click to, it clicks right to that part
Oh,
of the
good.
presentation.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, that'd
That's
be
been my
wonderful.
experience almost every time.
Wonderful.
I'll also add that, public comment is gonna be available. So like any board meeting, I'll be able to come and talk a little bit and say something, whereas at the workshop at Campus Willa, it's gonna be live streamed, but there's not gonna be a public comment, it's not a meeting, it's a workshop.
Right.
And we just work through how we'd be able to facilitate that in our time frame. So if you know people, if you know community leaders that wanna be there, then see if we can get them in person. But if we can't, if they do wanna say something, then let us know that that's our opportunity to public comment for the whole board.
That's all I had. I don't know if you had anything else. County. Okay, Dan?
I have some updates about the carbon tracking platform. So city and county, we currently have finalized 2 softwares. One is Invisio, the other one is Azuri. So Invisio is the program that currently city is using to track the strategic planning process. And Azuri is a program that we often know it for the ArcGIS maps. So the next step would be for the county and city to explore how to collaborate through different organizations. So that's the update about the tracking platform.
Are these platforms designed similar to the causal one that we saw specifically for, we're looking at climate action?
They have some similarities, but not exactly the same. Since currently city, we are facing the budget concerns, we would think that would be a good point to start with. But talking with other cities that they have already experienced years with climate action plan, the major concern would be how often we can update the data. So as far as I know that ICLEI was the company helped the city and county collected our greenhouse gas emission inventory. That was back to 2019. As far as city, we don't have any update ever since. So considering the updating frequency, we believe either Invisio or Azuri would be a good starting point. As we develop, maybe we need to looking for another third-party platform.
So are these platforms just for the city and county to use? Or are they available for citizens to look at?
So the intention was for the city and county that we can collaboratively submit the data and generate the graphic, the necessary information for the public to see.
Okay, so
So
this is
see-
something that would be available to the public.
Right, so similarly, like the planning and zoning map that city and county have, we have different layers, we have different categories. The citizen can go to the site, turn on or turn off the layers. That would be the intention. But practically, how can we collaborate through different organizations? That is still something we need to explore.
And will this have the climate action plan on it? This will be a climate action plan.
No, this is just to track the data, will
It's-
not have the actual plan. So the actual plan will be the next step. So first, we need to see which area has the biggest contribution to the carbon. And once we know that, then we can focus more on the policy making process.
Don't we know that from that study?
Yeah, this will give you the visual information available, and
And that study was from before I came, a year ago or 2 years
that was
ago?
the 2019 data. Yeah,
2019,
yeah.
so
There's-
we did the study 3 years ago and now we're just updating it by creating a visual to go with it?
So the data was collected back to 2019. The actual report was done by 2021 October. And we usually would require to update the data every year. But since we have not done that, so yeah, it's the time to take action.
And the data that we're talking about is strictly the CO2 data, emissions data, correct?
Pretty much, yes. So there are a couple contributors. There are a couple equations that we need to look at. CO2 definitely one of the biggest one. And in addition to CO2, there are a couple other items we still need to see. So that is a conversation being going on with ICLEI and CDP, which is a third party that they are in collaboration with United Nations. City repledge Race 2.0 back to 2021. So we are currently working on the reporting process so that we can remain good standing under our pledge.
And when did we get then a projection of when the report would be available?
So currently we have the 2019 report,
Right.
but by next year, we should be updating our report. But since we currently have a membership with ICLEI, I mean, city has a membership with ICLEI, and our membership will be due by October. And it's a matter of whether we can renew the membership or not. If we can successfully renew, then we will be able to continue using their template for the next year update.
So eventually we'll have a climate plan,
Yes.
climate action plan. Will it be on the same format
Um,
or platform?
Yes,
for the
it can,
public to
it
see?
can add the link to that platform and public can click on it.
Okay, and then will it have like goals and what we've accomplished so far?
Right, we can
Okay.
do that. So that's creating a link on that platform.
Similar to the way the causal platform had the goals and then what's been accomplished so far, what's left to be done. What, are we behind goal or ahead of schedule? Yeah,
And that's more like on the design side, the display, what we wanted to display on the map. So we can talk with our GIS specialist in terms of
We want to
that.
make sure that maybe this committee gets a chance to have some input into the format. Because that's what we're kind of tasked to do, is to kind of come up with the plan. So the outline of the plan and what the format would look like would be very important.
I think next time during the meeting, I can provide some examples. For example, what's the result from Invisio, that what they have done for other cities, like I demonstrated to some of the staff here. And also we can show some examples from ASRI, what it looks like. It may not be exactly from city or county, but might be provide us some examples from other places.
Okay, thank you.
is there a goal for when the city and when the county, I mean, your city, so you don't have to answer the county, but when they expect to have a climate action plan?
Yeah, so our strategy is to have this plan kind of vetted through for next October. Not this October, the following year, October. So
2024.
2024, and the reason it seems like a long way out, but we're going to be releasing categories and strategies and drafts along the way, as we're coming along. With the hope that we have a very large full picture of what that climate action plan will look like by October 24th.
Okay.
So that our idea would be to kind of release it and present that at our next year's climate summit.
But hopefully we'll have an outline of what needs to be.
You
built.
already have been working on that.
Right.
In fact, that's kind of what I see the next phase of this committee is after this climate event on June 2nd, we will start transitioning over to action plan development. And you'll start seeing some of those concepts, kind of draft plan ideas within the different areas, whether it's human health related issues, or whether it's energy, whether it's natural resource protection, all those different categories will start to bring forward some of those areas to this group for input, and you'll start to see that start to develop. And as that's going on, hopefully we'll start figuring out how we can display it, how it's going to be presented, strategies on what would look best or function best to give that information to the public. So that's kind of what I'm seeing and vision over this next year.
That's great. One question I have is, do you know of any cities that are already doing this well?
Yes, there are, and there's some collaboratives that do it well too, which is a bunch of cities and counties together.
Can we look at their action plans?
Yeah, I think the South Florida Compact is probably one of the best in the world when it comes to the kind of action plan they've put together. So I've looked at that many times, and it has some really great examples. Obviously, an aspect that we wouldn't be looking at would be, for instance, sea level rise impacts. But all the other aspects, or majority of the other areas that they've targeted would help, be very similar to some of the things we're looking at. So
Even the sea level rise would impact our migration patterns.
It would be
it would be there, but it would be identified as
As
migration impacts.
Expectations,
Yes,
yeah.
And we're getting that information in our climate vulnerability work as
Right.
well. So that would be an example of where that data is going to show the projections of what we could be seeing in 2040, 2070, 2100.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been reaching out to different cities that they already have their climate action plan in place, and they are working on their revisions. So there are a couple cities, especially on South Florida, like Miami-Dade, they were using, and Jacob is a company that helped assist with their climate action plan. It's more like a consultant company. And city, right now, we have MOU with them since 2018. I've been reaching out to them to see what level of services they can provide. And also I've been reaching out to ICLEI, since we have a membership with them, and we wanted to see what the benefit we can get from having a partnership with them. And in addition to that, we've been reaching out to Washington, DC. I know, like Gainesville, we are not on the same scale, but we can always learn from their experience and license. And also Orlando. So that's a couple of cities we frequently have contact with. From talking to them, we realized the climate action plan will be focusing on two aspects, which is climate adaptation and mitigation.
Mm-hmm.
And the key for the climate action plan would be how to eliminate or reduce the carbon emission. In another word, is what if we cannot, is there any possibility that we can offset the carbon emission in a way? So that's
Offset by
trees,
right.
planting trees, okay.
So
grasses.
there are a lot of approaches, and it
So
will.
they're not just talking about reducing carbon by 2050, they're talking about mitigating what you don't reduce.
Yeah,
by
you can
2050.
say that. And also, we currently working on a scientific model to see what's the expected reduction that we would be required in order to reach the 2045 net zero goal. So we will need to have a midpoint, which is by 2030, was the goal for 2030 in order to reach the 2045 goal. We're
That's
currently working
great.
on that right now.
That's great.
Dan, there's a question from a citizen, Yodi Palmer, who's a Sierra Club. She's asked the question, what consideration would possibly stop the city from continuing membership with ICLEI? I think that was more of a financial issue than anything, or maybe we, whether you thought you would get the value out of continuing that membership in terms of what they. Yeah, you want me to repeat it?
Yeah.
It was, what consideration would possibly stop the city from continuing membership with ICLEI?
So for that, I would say would be the budget. We had a meeting with city manager's office, and this is the item they will explore. Whether we have the budget to continue, we don't know. And currently we are using ICLEI to help report for the Race to Zero pledge under the United Nations. So with their platform, we will be able to do the carbon equivalent, which is a great help to reporting to CDP, which is another platform under the United Nations. With that, I see a lot of benefit, continue our membership with ICLEI, not just for the greenhouse gas emission report that they helped us years ago, and also all the services. And we've been having like a bi-weekly meeting with ICLEI. They provided the information and the training. A lot of departments were receive their training sessions. I think that's really beneficial for the city. But again, the budget is not something that we can have control at the moment. Unfortunately.
So it's not just rebidding it, it's whether it's actually going to be continuing. Okay. Well, we would like to probably make a recommendation from our committee that, and it sounds like ICLEI would be the way to go since we have rapport with them already, and their platform is something that we're used to. Okay, so maybe we can do that, Steve.
Can't do a motion today, but yes, we can keep that.
Can't do it tonight.
All
And,
right.
and the county's in the same situation. We have to make a decision on whether we'll continue our membership as well.
Oh. Huh. Do you pay double? I mean, does the city pay and the county pay?
Yes,
And
we-
then
we provide
meanwhile, we
two.
have the city county joint board, could we just change it to one?
no, it
membership?
doesn't work that way. We're two separate governments. We would both have to be members. I mean, one of us could be a member and you'd only be getting that information for one of us.
For the county, not
For the
for
county or
city.
for the city,
Yeah,
right?
it's based off the email domain. That's what we need to explore. The next phase, how can we collaborate through different organizations? So, like our email domain at cityofgainesville.org and versus county is a different one. Therefore, we have to pay two separate membership.
Mhm. Well, since, I mean, potentially if it was decided the city couldn't continue because of budget constraints, since the city is part of the county, couldn't the city's data be entered through the county?
That may be something we need to discuss. after this
At
meeting.
some level it could be, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's
think so,
not
maybe a
ideal,
little-
but,
Yeah,
you know, if you
yeah.
had to, because of budget constraints.
It would definitely increase the county amount probably, but,
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I was thinking too. There's overlap there.
Mhm.
I'm sure you guys have already thought about that and the bid, so I'm sure you came up with two separate domains for a reason. There was some benefit, I'm sure. I'm hoping our great leaders have already thought about that. Okay, thank you so much, Dan.
Jenny, did you
Yeah,
have
thank
anything else? Anything else?
I just had, got 7 tents for the June 2nd, thing.
Oh,
But
great.
How many were you?
7
many
additional
possible.
tents, that's,
Yeah, and I think that's
Wonderful. I don't think that is a number in mind.
Okay.
Are they like 10 by 10?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You can recheck the survey people sometime. I think a lot of people had agree in their own. I don't know, they're all.
So we could use that as a sitting area for people to eat.
Yeah,
That would be great because we have several picnic tables there, but we could put tents over there, especially if weather
So-
looks.
So you guys are gonna use that area between the pool and the lounge, lodge?
lodge,
That's where that was where that concrete place was and. So have we talked about the logistics of how it's gonna be set up yet?
you could pull up the.
No, we don't have, I just was
Uh,
wondering,
Yeah, so when you first come in, you'll see the lodge there in front, and then there's a parking lot. The I'm hoping that it doesn't rain, then the RTS bus is gonna be in the parking lot. And then we're gonna direct the cars to the left to kind of go around both the lodge and where that little road is.
Right.
And then we're gonna have parking, we're gonna have the vendors in that field. And then so the road kind of splits into a Y. We're gonna have the vendors in this field area. We're gonna have the food trucks over here. And then we're gonna direct parking kind of around the back behind.
okay,
the
so
pool.
it sounds like the tents are gonna be set up between, going toward the lake in that area.
I think we're thinking, so like the vendors and then the food trucks, and there's like a little bit of green space in that field, but I think we're hoping to keep the picnic tables pretty close to the food trucks.
Okay, all right.
And actually, our zero waste station is gonna be right there too, or composting and
Okay.
that will happen.
All right, I'm sure it'll be set up correctly. And,
We'll see, first time,
How
yeah,
many food trucks do you have?
we don't have any food trucks yet. We reached out a month in advance, but I guess a month in advance was still a little late, so. We're
We're
Got a lot.
continuing. We have a big list of people we're gonna be reaching out to. Food truck wise, so hopefully we get some responses this week.
Right, and some organizations that I've worked with the county before, so
That's good.
yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah, because that's a key factor of making this work.
yeah. And our food trucks for our open house for Coscowilla signed up really late.
Okay,
So we did get them coming in, but they took a long time to come in.
okay,
And I think you talked to Jane. She did ours
okay,
and she said she learned so much about food truck
well, wow.
and their business model. Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on, Eric,
Okay,
GRU.
so for GRU, we talked a little bit about it before, but the Origis deal, the solar farm was signed, solar sand sand bluff, can't remember the name of it.
Sand Bluff Solar.
Thank you, Sand Bluff Solar. I always refer to it as Origis, so. That deal was signed, and so it went into effect. The delivery date and commercial operation date is on or before December 31st of 2024. So they are working towards that goal to have that facility online. As far as the IRP goes, we completed our first stakeholder advisory group and our first community meeting. So John represented the CCAC on the stakeholder advisory group. And we did the first community meeting last Tuesday, I believe, at the GRU building. And got some good feedback there from the community as well. So the next stakeholder group is scheduled for June 6th. It will be at the same time. We'll be talking about IRP assumptions, what things are going in, load forecast, some available technology, all those things will be discussed at the next one. So I expect that one to be lively, as the first one was just a 101. The next one will actually start getting into data and detail. So looking forward for great input there. We've been doing some work in the sustainability group, partnering with working with Dan and her crew and Fleet on EVs. So we're working on a charter kind kind of a plan for EVs going forward for a city and both sides of the city, GRU and GG, for the entire fleet. They are also, and I say they because I'm just getting reports, but Dan and that same group minus me are working on a grant for electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And so that grant, I think the deadline just got extended to the middle of June. So they're working on how to place those. There's a Justice 40 component that goes to that. There's some corridor considerations that are being made, working with charging vendors, trying to decide or at least come to a partnership with those. So that grant is roughly at 80-20. So the grant covers 80% of the cost, and then the 20 either by the partner or the entity itself. So excited about that. Hopefully we're successful. We expect that to be pretty competitive, but we'll still go through the process.
So I have a question. Are these chargers for the city fleet and the county fleet, or is that public charging stations?
Yes, public. Their discussion. Dan, do you want to go in more detail or? Okay, so the discussion is, okay, how do we make the best use of it? And part of it may be, okay, the city or the fleet has options to charge there. But the idea is that they're open to the public and for public consumption. The goal is to grow the infrastructure in underrepresented areas and along corridors in the state.
Excellent.
So
Okay,
there are two, just one point, there are two tracks, one is community, the other one is corridor. For the community, the priority is to consider the underserved area, that's where the Justice 40 is. And the corridor, making sure the traffic is flowing through, and so that's another track.
And the corridor would be I-75 or 441?
One of those major
Both,
corridors.
okay.
So we actually just did a site visit this afternoon. We went to 10 different sites
I gotta go.
with our potential electrical charging company, and we had a nice discussion. And we are currently explore what's the potential, the revenue share, which is in addition to the cost share. Cost share is 80-20, but in terms of the revenue share, we are unfortunately cannot locate any other examples from any other city at the moment. So we kind of have to explore that by ourselves. But we do know that Shands is currently trying to push for a similar revenue share model, which they are still working on that.
so right now, what we're really talking about is applying for and doing the application for that grant. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and I think what I saw was right now we're at the point where you're gonna ask the mayor to be able to sign off on that. Is that right? The city manager.
Yes,
So
so
letter of support.
letter of support
Okay.
will be, right now is under consent for the Thursday city commission meeting.
All right.
Unless there are questions, will be.
And what I thought we might do is make a recommendation that they support that from our committee.
What, wouldn't the revenue go just to cover the expenses? Would it not go to the utility company that's providing the energy?
Yes.
Or is there, or do you think it'll make more revenue than just the cost?
So for the installation part, that's 80-20, which is the federal government. If we are selected, the federal government pays 20%.
I
The
get that.
vendor pays 20%. The revenue share would be, they are using our city property is more like that they need to pay a certain percentage in addition to the utility that they have to pay GRU,
The vendor,
which is a charging company.
okay, so we're not talking about GRU, we're talking about like,
Charge point or any other
Okay.
like a company.
or,
So-
what's Tesla or whatever, whoever puts in a
Supercharge,
charge.
right, yeah, we are not considering supercharge at the moment, and
Is Supercharge the fast one?
supercharge is for Tesla
Tesla.
only at the moment.
Oh,
I know they are trying to push for, make it available for all EVs, but has not get to the point yet. So therefore, we wanna do a certain level 2 And then level 3, which is DC fast, that you can reach like 80% within 30 minutes, is considered a fast charge. And then the level 2 is you have to charge like 4 to 6 hours for fully charged, which is considered a little bit slower, but it could meet the need. Like UF campus right now, it's mostly level 2.
Okay. Do you know approximately how many charging stations you're thinking about putting in?
That's the number we currently are working on. We should have a finalized number by Thursday.
So this is, again, this is
The
a
application.
process and application, and part of it is citing to make sure that it meets the criteria that it's gonna be beneficial use. Other part is finding an EV charging partner, to be able to help build the infrastructure with, and working out a lot of those details, so
Okay.
that's kind of where the process is right now.
And the application date was,
June 15th, it
June
just got
15th.
extended
okay,
for 2 weeks. It was the end of May, which was coming very, very quickly. But they extended it by 2 weeks, so.
Oh, that is great news that you
Yeah.
all are doing that. Thank you for your work.
You want to mention about the CBG, the block grant?
Why don't you tell them about that one? You're up, yeah. You're closer to that one than I am.
So after we've been reaching out to multiple Race to Zero conversations, and surprisingly, we received a co-located 1,800,000 from the block grant, and GRU submitted the pre-award sheet. We have until January to submit our application and secure the fund.
You're getting 1,800,000.
Yes, its exact number is 179,000, 100,000.
And is this
179,000.
as part of the IRA? Or where is the grant coming from?
So that one is not for the IRA. So there are like two tracks. One is that we have been awarded that amount, then we work towards receiving the amount, including submit an application on a later date, which that's the track for us. And another track is what we typically would see is that we submit the application and the review, then we got awarded, selected. And which on this scenario, we are on the track 1. Very, very lucky.
Awesome.
What's the 179,000 for?
It's in the block EECBG.
Okay,
We got the notice from Florida Race to Zero.
great. Okay.
okay, great.
There's another
So-
question though.
All right, some of these go back to ICLEI. Matt Williams is suggesting his ICLEI membership relatively high, having participated in the past greenhouse gas inventory with them. I'm confident we have city and county staff who are capable of doing the same work. At that point, Betsy and Dan weren't in their positions. So I think there are some aspects that we can do. I think having them pulling that and using their data, again, would to me seem a good choice if we can afford to do that. And then the last question is, so ChargePoint or whichever vendor would be paying the equivalent of rent? Question. And I think that goes back to the EV.
To the
charge-
EV,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
So there's a number of models that are there, right? If it's on public property, then yes, we can charge them rent for that because they're getting access to public land and getting that revenue that's coming. Another model in general could be, hey, we just get a percentage of their revenue based on how much they make above and beyond that utility bill. Another model is that they keep everything, you know, we split, they pay the utility bill, they keep everything until they recoup all of their investment. And then we come up with some kind of revenue share at that point. So there's a couple of different avenues, and once we decide which partner we're gonna go with, we'll have to work out all of those details. But those are a couple of the concepts that could come up.
And I assume the partners also maintain the charging
Yes,
stations?
so we wouldn't own anything, they would own and they would maintain.
Mhm.
The thought right now from the utility perspective is we'd like to incentivize, we'd like to partner with. We don't want to be in the owning, operating, buying.
Yeah.
Stage of that, because it's gonna add extra cost and also require additional resources and personnel, right?
Mhm.
And it's just not a field that we think is gonna be viable for us long term, when there's so many other vendors out there that do this for a living
Yeah,
every
that makes
day.
sense.
So, that's kind of the thought right now.
So this application would really fall into the strategy that you want to use, right? Yeah.
Our idea is to incentivize, how do we change customer behavior and incentivize transition and incentivize growth of infrastructure? And then figure out, where
Yeah.
we go from there.
I think as much as we can partner on new technologies, the better. It just seemed to work out good with energy conservation, with new air conditioning systems, new lighting systems. If we partner with the manufacturers and the people that are actually in those industries, it tends to work out better, because things are going to be changing. Yeah.
Eric, do you have a timeline? Like, you'd like to have the charging stations by December 2024?
For this grant or?
This is the
in
Yeah,
grant.
like, is
general?
the grant asking you to put in a timeline, or do you have one in general?
Yeah, I don't think there's a timeline requirement.
Okay,
Yeah, they have like a 5-year that, like a timeline, but there's no strict timeline when we're gonna put it, because each jurisdiction, the progress is different.
okay. And so the grant application is next month. Do you know when you'll find out if you get it?
October,
October?
yeah, I remember.
Okay, and so then from October, it'll be up to 5 years to get these in place.
No,
Just-
there's different iterations for the next 5 years, different
Oh,
blocks
okay.
of money that will be available. So
I
if we
see.
don't get it this year, we could potentially apply again next year with an updated plan, what
I
have you.
see.
But the timeline to have them installed isn't specified.
I just have a quick clarification about the Italy. So just paying the membership, giving us the access to their resource, but they will not do the service for us. We still, as county and city staff, we need to upload all the data. We need to do the data conversion by ourselves. That's all our staff time. But if we wanted to use their service, that's additional cost, which is costly. We will not consider that at the current moment. When we get to the point that there's a strong need for that, then we will consider, discuss more service opportunities. But yeah, I agree with, Matt Williams, at the current stage, it will be on staff.
So one last thing on, I know everyone has questions about the bill, and you probably have the same questions that we have. But at this point, obviously it's passed the Senate, it's passed the House, but it has not been given to the governor yet to sign. So once he gets it, he'll have 15 days to do something with it. So at this point, as of today, he hasn't had it, and so therefore he hasn't signed it. So we're trying to figure out, going through the language with legal staff, okay, what all the gray areas that aren't spoken to or aren't very clear, kind of coming up with what is the interpretation of those things. We had to go execute it as if it was done. What will we do with that kind of thing? So those are some of the questions that we're trying to work through. But again, it's not.
Eric, give me an example of a gray area.
An example of a gray area.
Yeah.
Well, this bill comes into effect July 1.
Right.
The board is not seated until October 4th. What happens in between? Does the city commission have the ability to, continue to run the utility, to issue debt as necessary to make those decisions, or do they not? That's gray. The interpretation's kind of leaning, well, obviously somebody has to be in charge, and it makes sense that the city commission is. But when you set up that dynamic, if this is June or July 1st and all the language changes and sets up this authority, but there's no authority or no people sitting in those seats, what do you do with it? Right? So all of those things are, that's one example.
Right.
Okay. There are many, many more.
I was
We start
wondering-
digging into the details.
I was wondering about the debt that was incurred with the biomass plant. Does that go with GRU? Or does the city keep the debt and the governor gets GRU?
That's a great question. Right now,
Is that another gray area?
it's, there hasn't been a final interpretation on that. It assumes that debt would go with GRU, would be a
Okay.
part of GRU's system, right?
Okay.
And then we would continue to pay that down. Because we would still be a part of the city when we issue debt, how does that work? Is it actually city debt? Is it this new authority's debt? Like what, how does that work? So another gray area of legality, well, what does that mean exactly when we do it? We have the authority to do it, but what does that mean? So.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you, Eric. Any other, before we move on, Steve, you good? Dan? That's good.
I just had one more question. Back to the Regis solar plant. What percentage of power will that produce for us?
Overall annual requirement, we're thinking somewhere between 5 to 8%,
Okay.
depending on the output.
Cool. All
Output.
right, thank you.
All right. All right, suggestions for our next regular meeting, which is scheduled now for June 26th.
Yeah, we would normally be the 19th, and that's a holiday.
Okay. So one of the things we definitely would like to get some feedback on the June 2nd, how well that went. And any suggestions for, the next one, follow up. So we can get that one, and you guys,
Yeah, that would be we could do the follow-up event and then, our plan for the follow-up is to start the climate action plan. So maybe we can bring some examples from
Yeah.
that. we can look at.
okay, that would be great.
And city, we will bring examples of the tracking platform that we discussed today.
Okay. All right. And Eric, by that time, we'll definitely know possibly what's going on is with the GRU.
We hope so. There's some timelines set out in the bill of, application period for this authority and, 120 days and all that. And so it's gotta happen pretty soon.
Okay.
Meet that October.
And of course, we want to keep on the agenda, some updates on our partnership liaison.
Okay.
And then Danielle, you'll have at that time a space where we can put comments on.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Steve, anything else you think we need? And will we? No, it'll be the next day when we do the presentation.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
What I will do though, I'll send out emails just to make sure we can get a quorum. I think it's the summertime, and I think that's what's causing some of our level of availability. So let me check. I mean, if one question is if we're not gonna have a quorum, whether we have a meeting or we do, but that I might just reach out to you all and see to make sure that the 27th or 26th is a time that everyone's available, because
so,
this would be if we aren't able to, that's 3 meetings in a row without a quorum, and that's kind of unusual for our group. We usually have a bigger group available, so we can check on that too.
that would be great.
Yeah.
All right, anything else from the group?
We did have when we get to it.
Oh,
public
okay,
comment.
all right, let's do that now.
Okay, I get an email, Sue Blythe wanted me to bring something up at public comment. So I'll go ahead and read that. She didn't think she'd be able to get on the meeting this evening. So the Climate Collaboratory requests a letter of support for an application to the Florida Humanities Council for their $50,000 Broadcasting Hope Media Grant. This is for the 2023-24 Climate Conversation in Action and Intergenerational Community Engagement Program. They intend to tell Alachua County's climate story for its bicentennial in 2024 through the participatory arts. They have an opportunity to partner with the Smithsonian Institute's Museum on Main Street program to create a virtual museum exhibit. And she will send a specific request of support by the end of the week. So I explained to Sue that this board can't write a letter of support to an organization. This board provides a recommendation to the Joint Water and Climate Policy Board. So under a situation where we had a quorum, you would be asking that the Joint Water and Climate Policy Board support this, provide a letter of support. This committee on its own cannot do that. I know we've had like efforts with legislative items and things like that. This group can't act kind of unilaterally on its own to address those. So I've explained that to her. There's some other avenues. Staff could provide letters of support from either the city or the county in support of a grant like this. We could bring it to a commission, city or county commission, just asking if they'd be willing to have a chair letter of support. Those are options we could do. The Joint Water and Climate Policy Board doesn't meet again until August, so I suspect that that's not going to meet her need. I've suggested to her that it's a possibility, something like my department could provide a letter of support, saying that we support a grant like this to support climate education and things like that. So we can do something like that. I don't know if this board, especially without a quorum either, can do anything like that. So she wanted me to bring this forward. I did already have some email conversation about some of the limitations this board can do, but I wanted to still announce this and let you all know about this grant they're gonna be applying for.
Okay. Yeah, she did send, and I did look it up. Sue does some great work. And I think that, but I agree, we can't give a letter of support. We just make recommendations to the joint committee, Water Climate Committee. But Steve, is there something that your department might consider doing?
Yeah. I'll read through what.
And as she
what's
sends the
involved,
detail.
and then when she sends me this later this week, I've done that many times where we've, from a
Okay.
department standpoint, provided a letter that, the county is in support of
Okay.
this, especially if it's not a financial
Right.
partnership, it's just a partnership of support. That is something we've done in the past.
Right. I think the arts, when we tie the arts to climate, it's a really good thing. I participated in event that Sue had, and the kids did such a great job at the Star Theater. So it's a way of getting the community involved, and that's one of our objectives, is to keep communicating climate issues to the community.
So
So,
I'll let, if maybe Dan from the city side too, I'll find out if there's a financial side. If there isn't a financial commitment, there's usually not a problem expressing support. If there's a financial side, then we have to go up the chain
Right.
and either go to our managers or the city or county commissions to get that support, and that's a bigger
Right.
effort.
okay, so if you could do that, that would be great.
Yep.
All right. And then there was one more with this, are we on the letter from the meat?
Oh, there was a email that went out about the meat processing. They're asking that this committee consider evaluating the meat processing plant in terms of its impact on climate. That's a decision you all can make. Maybe at the next meeting, you can bring that back up too, but it's up to you all.
Okay. I think it's still too much up in the air as far as whether or not we're gonna actually do anything with this meat processing plant. I think as it moves forward, as it gets more, then maybe we could do something. To analyze it would be a really a big deal.
So my understanding is that the purpose of it is for local farmers. And it would be to give the local market
It-
more local
Mhm.
beef.
And when, well, beef, the pork and goat, but it would be about bringing, it's really, when you look, it's being about bringing local foods from a nutritious standpoint and from a sustainable standpoint, cutting out the transportation and cutting out the fact that we're shipping things out to ship things back.
Yeah.
And what we found in general, when we do local versus sending things out, it becomes more sustainable. So yeah, and I guess what she's asking is that and it's available. I mean, I guess she wants it done for the gains for Alachua County. I mean, there's been studies that show that local is more sustainable than bringing things from the outside. So I guess she's asking to have it done from our local standpoint.
Now, this is a private industry, a private entity doing this, the meatpacking plant, right? Oh,
No,
would this be a county business? Oh.
it wouldn't,
So-
it wouldn't be owned, it wouldn't be operated by the county.
Correct.
And we're,
But it would be owned by the county.
yes. And we're getting part of the money from federal because they're promoting local food. And then the county will pay for part of it. So it would be similar to what we're talking about with the charge stations.
To get state funding.
Can you
State
remind
funding.
who's the group that's asking us to do this?
It's an individual.
No,
What's the
No,
group?
it was a group of citizens. I have to pull their info back up.
But where it stands right now is that the commission is evaluating the cost, the design, and seeing if we can find an operator. So it's not at a stage where we're actually doing anything yet. We're actually getting designs and trying to find an operator.
One other part of that project is it's also, there's a couple other facets. Environmental Protection is looking to site a hazardous waste collection center at that same, I think, 30 acres or something like that in Newberry, so that the entire west side of the county has another place that they can get rid of their hazardous waste safely and free. And there was one other facility, Newberry was looking to put something.
Oh,
there as
it's
well.
a fire
Okay.
training facility.
There's gotta be this water.
They're expanding their wastewater treatment facility as well to also
That's-
service High Springs and Archer.
Yeah.
So there's multiple components.
Right.
Yeah. It's a multiple groups of citizens, it's a group of citizens. I don't see a name for the group that I can tell, but it's a list of different citizens.
Okay. It's like Ellen addressed it.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, and it says I could speak somewhat to this issue, the slaughterhouse issue. A bigger fish to fry would be to have Alachua County also support plant-based diets and share information about 3 big myths about plant-based diets. So I do know that the county does support, the plant-based diet aspects as well, in a lot of their efforts for local foods. It's up to you if you want Ellen to speak to it.
Is the group interested hearing something about plant-based diets right now? Or you want to wait till we get a bigger group?
Or maybe until the slaughterhouse issue goes further down.
That's
Yeah.
more relevant.
Yeah, let's ask her if we could just put that off until this is more relevant and that we know that that's something that might happen. If that works.
Ellen, you can hear us, you're able to speak in response if you like.
Okay, I'm happy to wait. It's a loaded issue. It will probably pass because it makes sense for local farmers to save, there's some humanity issues for the animals that are gonna get slaughtered that make a lot of sense, and we're not gonna get people to stop eating meat. The group of which I think I'm probably one of the signers, I'm guessing my name is on the letter requesting.
It is.
Has more to do with the climate impacts of cattle to begin with, which are terrible, as you all know. So that's one piece. And that if the county's going to spend money supporting a slaughterhouse, then an equal opportunity ought to be for getting really strong about there's alternatives that are also better for the environment and better for people. That's the short thing to speak to. So I'm happy to wait until there's really something really to make a recommendation to our supervising board. But that's the bigger picture. It isn't just don't do a slaughterhouse here. It's that meat-based diets are killing the planet. And we understand the value of putting one in Newberry for the farmers here. We do. And to be sure, it's a both and situation. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
I would just say briefly to the meeting that you mentioned that's before the climate fair.
Yes.
The meeting that we discussed that's before the climate fair is actually the Fresh Foods Pathways, the county's efforts to put inside of the same pool of money towards local crop growers. And so that is local farms, Sambor Farms, I think has been involved, a few other local food banks. So I would just, if you're interested in the meat processing and the plant-based piece, I really encourage people to keep an eye on that project also.
Okay, thank you. All right. Steve, if you can just maybe recap a little bit on of the items, action items, and then we'll be ready for adjournment.
Okay, what I've got is a couple items for the next meeting. Have Dan come back, give an update on our platform options. And we'll give a summary of the outcome of our June 2nd event as well, and maybe give some discussion about what our next steps will then be. And then the only other thing, I have Danny, you're providing in kind of an updated spreadsheet that I will then provide out to everyone on the partnership collaboration that we're doing with our partners. So those are the action items I had written.
I don't know if this counts as an action item, but you said you would send the link of that meeting on May 23rd.
I'll do that as well.
And will you also send the information on how to apply to be a member of this board so that we can share it with people who think might be interested?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a good suggestion. Yeah.
And Danny's Googling again. Google Doc link.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, the first one.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
so bad at.
and
Google
Steve,
Docs.
we're going to get some
I'll see it
updates
back to him
for
so he
the
doesn't
June
forget.
26th meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
All right, well, thank everybody for participation today. I think we had although we didn't have a quorum, we had a good, productive meeting. Thank you, and this meeting is adjourned.